Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the fifth edition of Words in the Garden, a celebration of literature, arts, and ideas. Sanatan Sangeet Sanskriti is honored to organize this annual festival, curated by Sri Ashok Vajpeyi ji in collaboration with India International Centre to celebrate the incredible creativity, imagination, and ideas that Delhi generates and sustains. After a break of 2 years due to the pandemic, we are delighted to restart this festival and bring together artists, writers, innovators, and leaders to explore the outstanding contributions of women to Delhi through this year's theme, Dilli ki Mahilayen. We hope that Words in the Garden will inspire and delight you, and we invite you to immerse yourself in the rich and diverse culture of Delhi. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to an engaging and thought-provoking festival. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. And I'd like to introduce our speakers. So let me start with Ms. Santana Bhattacharya, the editor of the New Indian Express Group, a multi-edition flagship brand with 30 editions across South India, Orissa, and Delhi. She has 3 decades of work with the top line media print platforms. Good evening, ma'am. Second, I'd like to introduce Sri Pavan S.K. Varma, is an Indian diplomat, politician, and an author who served as an ambassador to Bhutan and Cyprus. Pavan Varma is a graduate of the St. Stephen's College, New Delhi. He joined the Indian Foreign Service in 1976, took voluntary retirement from the Indian Foreign Service in 2012. He is also an acclaimed author, translator, and poet. Good evening, sir. Dr. Sujata Shahi, Professor of Organizational Behavior and Human Resource Management. She holds an academic and an administrative experience of 4 decades. She has been engaged with IILM for Gurgaon for the last 15 years, and she has been at the steering seat of the IILM University since its inception in 2018 as the Vice Chancellor. Good evening, ma'am. And last and not the least, Sri Ashok Vajpeyi, a Hindu, poet, critic, translator, editor, and a cultural activist, is a major cultural figure of India with more than 14 books of poetry, 10 of criticism in Hindi, and 4 books on art in English to his credit. He is widely recognized as an outstanding promoter of culture and innovative institutional builder. Apart from being a noted cultural and arts administrator and a formal civil servant, he was the chairman of the Lalit Kala Academy, India's National Academy of Arts, Ministry of Culture, Government of India from 2008 to 11. He is now one of the trustees of the Raza Foundation, established in 2001, which is the non-profit organization devoted to arts, culture, and ideas. Good evening, sir. Now I would request Srimati Santana Bhattacharya to please open the session.
Hello everyone. The best part of this evening and get together is that I'm being owned by Delhi finally. I came here some 3 decades ago in the early 90s. I, of course, had a deep connect with the city because my father was born and brought up here, and part of my family is from here. But I came here in the 90s to do exactly what I continue to do, which is journalism. And it is good to know that finally the city is owning me. It's very curious. I discovered the city and what it means to me during my first visit to Pakistan. And I traveled from Karachi. I was traveling alone. And from Karachi, I was there for 2 days. And then I came to Lahore and I heard this lingo around me, and I heaved a sigh of relief, thinking, oh, I have reached a very comfort zone of a language and a city, a kind of ambience that I'm familiar with. So there was a bit of Delhi. So I discovered what Delhi means, what Delhi lingo means actually in Lahore. In the same way, I'm happy to see that Delhi is finally owning me, and it is journalism. I'm again and again being told that I'm this rare phenomena that I have come to become the editor of a multi-brand print platform, which has not happened before. But frankly, in my years of journalism, I was fortunate enough to be working in organizations and platforms where I was never gender conscious. I was never told not to do something because I was a woman. We have gone to conflict zones. We have covered election just about in every state, and there have been various kinds of experiences that one has had while traveling alone, while doing journalism. It's not that I was not, when I say I'm not gender conscious while I was doing my profession, it's in choice of the work that was allotted to me. There was no question of I being not allowed or not having access to certain kind of beats, which is like, earlier not covered by women journalists. We never had that problem. But of course, that doesn't mean that I was not conscious of the situation of women in our society. Okay, it is very important for any city or any history or any space to acknowledge the contribution of women in making of that city, making of a history, and making of the workforce. If we don't have women in the workforce, I was looking at the statistics a few days ago. There is a decline in women's participation in workforce, which is an alarming thing. If we call ourselves a democracy, if we want to grow, the economy has to grow in certain manner, then women participation in the workforce, whether it is at the top or at the lower level or the middle rung, is important. It's not just important, it is vital. And of course, we are caught in a kind of time where we are making a kind of progress, and there is a kind of regress that happens. India lives in various centuries across its, political, geopolitical landmass. So we see various kinds of debates that go on. When, for example, when I was a resident editor of my paper in Karnataka when the hijab controversy broke out. And I didn't know how to approach it. I didn't know how to approach it because at one level, there were these young girls who were being told, who were being denied access to education because of the way they're deciding to dress, to cover their head. And I come from a state where, we have lived on and grown on anecdotes of Shantiniketan, where education was under the tree and there was no uniform. So for me, it was a big challenge to, negotiate this whole question about how to approach this. I remember my news editor, Gulnar Mirza, wrote a brilliant edit in our paper where she says, those who are telling us to wear the hijab and those who are telling us not to wear are the same kind of people. They are men. They are not letting us choose. Okay, so it was a very, very complicated issue that we had to deal with as a woman journalist, and it is a gender context also. That debate is still going on, whether these young girls who have chosen to cover their head, are they doing the right thing, or the state has a right to deny education to young people of certain background just because they choose to dress in a certain manner. Okay, so it's not as if the gender debates don't haunt us. We don't have to ponder on those issues. But in during my time, in our time in journalism, though there was controversies like Me Too also happened, and journalism got fogged by those controversies. But it is also the time where prominent journalists are in each field, whether it is foreign policy, whether it's defense, whether it's what is considered quote unquote hard issues of journalism are covered by women, and not just in terms of news reporting, but also in terms of opinion making, opinion pieces. In fact, most of our prominent political writers are all, Nija Chaudhary or Radhika Ramaseshan. They're all women journalists. And that's why we keep saying the IWPC is a very powerful organization now. Okay, all the top women are there. So I think I have spoken enough, and we can open the discussion and allow others to speak. Yeah.
Good evening. Let me first congratulate Malvika ji for restarting Words in the Garden after the hiatus of COVID. I think it's a wonderful tradition mentored by Ashok Vajpeyi ji, which is an informal setting you can discuss what this city is about and what needs to change in it and what has been its tradition. I was talking to her earlier in the day and I said, ये subject बड़ा आपने अजीब व गरीब चुना, दिल्ली की महिलाएं और वो उसमें अशोक जी का हाथ होगा जरूर. तो I remembered a line from Tulsidasa's Ramcharitmanas. का नहीं पावक जारी सक, what can fire not burn? का न समुद्र समाई, what cannot be submerged in the ocean? का न करे अबला प्रबल, what is it that a strong woman cannot do? के ही जग काल न खाए, who can escape the circle of time? And का न करे अबला प्रबल is the important thing I want to focus upon, because in a male-dominated society, and whatever we say, it is one. I entirely agree with the kind of conundrum Santana ji was in on the issue of the burqa. But my own view is that it is a choice women should make, but very often the choice women make are conditioned by what the men want them to do. And their ability to question it is not an expression of choice, but a deference to conformity. And therefore that needs to change, because within the NCR, the National Capital Region, you have as much a gathering like this as Khap Panchayats happening across the borders of the metropolis, where women are still objectified, treated as subordinate and dictated to. So this is where India lives in several time zones. But as far as the subject today is concerned, I have been a chronicler of Delhi. I've written several books, from Ghalib to Havelis of Old Delhi to others. I was trying to think. I think the first powerful woman in Delhi was Draupadi. And Indraprasth is in Delhi. And in many ways, both in mythology and history, she changed the way history unfolded. And then in my wanderings in Old Delhi, I came upon a grave which hardly anybody goes to. It's quite neglected, and it's a grave of a woman who, in the 13th century, from 1205 to 1240, she was the first ever female sultan in Delhi, Razia Sultan. She died at the age of 35, but she assumed the title of Sultan, Razia Sultan, uh, 1,000 years ago. And when I wrote my book, The Havelis of Old Delhi, one of the chapters is on another remarkable lady whose house is what is today Bhagirath Palace. And it was the residence of a remarkable woman who dominated Delhi's society in her own right. And her name is Begum Samru. And she had a very checkered and colorful history. She had an estate in Sardana, not far from Delhi. She moved to Delhi. She married a Frenchman who died. She inherited his estates. And then she built the Begum Samru Palace, which is now called Bhagirath Palace, where electrical goods are. It was her garden, and it's a rather large garden. There, right? Everyone knows where it is. And she converted to Christianity, and as a woman, she entertained the British resident and the Mughal courtiers in impeccable style, and created quite a legend about her. In fact, a film should be made about her. And in those same wanderings in Old Delhi, I came upon, in Sitaram Bazaar, the Haksar Haveli. On 7th February 1916, in that very Haveli, the marriage took place of Jawaharlal Nehru with Kamla Nehru, who was a Delhi lady. Her home was Delhi. And we know later what an important role she played, not only in the freedom movement, but as one of the prime motivations for women to be in the forefront of the freedom movement. And then, of course, we come to more recent history. Why I am narrating this is not because I think women have been given their due role, but that in spite of that denial, there are women who are from this city who have made a mark. I mean, we have, of course, names like Indira Gandhi, where it was said that she was the only member of the cabinet who wore the pants. And there's a wonderful picture of Raghu Rai where all the men with their Gandhi topis in their hand are bowing before her as she sits imperiously presiding over a meeting. And she did rule Delhi. I was familiar with another lady who actually belongs to Delhi, but she was the leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha and made a remarkable impact. Sushma Swaraj. She was a fiery speaker, an exceptionally polite and courteous lady. She was my guest when I was ambassador in Bhutan, and so on and so forth. So women have come up. And if you look at the artistic world, which Ashok ji, I know in particular, is very familiar with, this is the city in modern times which has produced Neelima Sheikh, Anjali Ila Menon, Arpita Singh, Madhvi Parekh, and many more others, including connoisseurs of art like Kiran Nadar. And few people know that one of the centers of art in Delhi which is the Shri Ram Bharatiya Kala Kendra, was set up by a Delhi woman called Sumitra Charatram. And today the Kamani Auditorium and the Shri Ram Bharatiya Kala Kendra continues to be run almost like a passion by her daughter Shobha Deepak Singh, who is on oxygen. She needs oxygen support, but there is not a single day when she will not go to the Sri Ram Bharatiya Kala Kendra. So there are remarkable women. I mean, this is the city wherein K25 Hoskas lived Amrita Pritam. This is the city where, whether you like her or you don't like her, Arundhati Roy is. This is the city where, because now the West has recognized her, we have also begun to recognize her. Gitanjali Shri lives. In other words, this is, and of course, I'm not even going into the area of the other areas of art like dance and so on and so forth, music. Remarkable. So, essentially, what I want to say is that we are far from the dream of a gender equal society. Let's be clear. But today, there is a new recognition, a new assertion, a new acceptance of the fact that women are in no way lesser than men, and I think the capital should showcase this as an example, as a role model to the extent that it can, because there are still many deficiencies. But I do believe strongly that ka na kare abla prabal. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you, Malvika ma'am, to giving me this opportunity to be part of this esteemed panel with all respected people in their own respective fields. The theme, today's theme, Dilli ki Mahilayen, wonderful evening, wonderful people, and wonderful theme, Dilli ki Mahilayen. This one is very close to my heart for two reasons. First of all, being a woman, and second, I became Dilli ki Mahila after 2000 when I shifted from Bihar to Delhi. Little bit I can talk about my personal journey in Delhi. I encountered when I shifted here, being a part of traditional culture, conservative family, I encountered with the open culture of Delhi. That was the first challenge which I felt, being a woman in Delhi. Although I know Delhi embraces women from all walks of life, be workforce or corporate leaders, academicians, politicians, everything. But that time I felt that this one is a tough journey in Delhi to be called as a Dilli ki Mahila. Then gradually I realized, adopted, and I got good opportunities, good experiences, and gradually love and warmth also in Delhi. Now I am completely, मैंने दिल्ली को अपना लिया है, दिल्ली ने भी मुझे अपना लिया है. एक चीज़ और है that which I wanted to share with everyone, this culture which has art, which has literature, Delhi ki culture, literature, everything we have in this Delhi, which we feel also and which we perceive also. इतने के बावजूद भी एक चीज़ है इस दिल्ली में, sometime we feel that this is not safe for women, but still after that every day early morning thousands of women, they move to work with achieve their passion and dream. So this is the Delhi one side. Ma'am, you talked about declining the workforce and we can't achieve equity. There is a few reasons which I personally feel this imposter syndrome also in corporate world. They are not giving chance to women to go to go to upper ladder. Then sometime the equity because of the education. I feel education is one field which gives wing to women, girl, child, so they can achieve whatever they want to achieve. Apart from education, hard work and the projection of leadership, these are required, but still education is one thing. I was just feeling that one side we say Delhi creates amalgam of art, culture and literature, but being an academician, it's like a challenge for us to bring young generation back to this culture, art and literature, which is now going to be part of a liberal education. Even our government is giving focus that this art, culture, literature could be part of the core domain of education. So that is why somewhere, this thing is fading away, and we have to bring back this one. I feel as a challenge, being a woman. Otherwise, I'm happy I got opportunities, and basically, we have to face all the challenges, and we have to encounter that. This is it. Thank you.
Well, friends, why we chose this theme? We have celebrated in Words in the Garden, Ghalib, Mir, and Gandhi, who all have contributed to making Delhi what it is. But all too often, these are all male figures. We forget. I remember when I first went abroad, and I was in London, I was a young person, and I thought that on any given day, more beautiful women were walking on the streets of Delhi than in London. And this is something which was visual. For a young man, this is visual, sensuously visual. And I said, well, why is it that Delhi has so many beautiful women, but they have also so many cultured women, so many accomplished women? And I'll just give you, because some names which have been left out, we must remember. This city's culture, its ethos of imagination and ideas, its metropolitan ethos, all have been contributed substantially by women, and they have helped sustain it in spite of various challenges. Let me remind you, a few days ago, 2 incidents took place relating to women in Delhi. One was the Nirbhaya Kand. At that time, I think the issue that came up, at least in my mind, was that equality of men and women, which has been guaranteed by our constitution, is not accepted by the religions. And that the religions keep on creating this problem of inequality. That they should be, in a democracy, somehow pressurized, if not forced, to admit and promote equality of men and women. But that was Nirbhaya Kand. The other was the Shaheen Bagh. Now, protests against a draconic citizenship law was led by women. And the protest was led by Muslim women. It is another story that later powers that be created a narrative. They were completely, I have been to that place, I was moved to tears. Because these women who were sitting there, they were ordinary women, nameless, anonymous, but they were fighting for the right. So these are 2 poles. One where the women are attacked. Delhi is also the rape capital of India. The largest number of rapes and such like take place here. Of course, if you take the figures of the National Crime Bureau, then the largest number of violence against women takes place in the Hindi belt, almost 70%. And UP alone accounts for about 45%. So this is a gruesome picture on the one hand. Against all this, what women have achieved in Delhi. We are sitting in the India International Center, and on your right side is a block called Kamla Devi block. Kamla Devi Chattopadhyay was a major figure during the freedom struggle, and after that she took to crafts, and the revival of Indian crafts in a major way has been due to the initiative and steps taken by Kamla Devi ji and also later by Pupul Jaika. She also did it here. There was another lady here, Kapila Vatsyayan, who ran an Asian project, but who also was the founder of the IGNCA, and there are a number of institutions which were founded by Kapila ji. These are two women. But let's go back to, I remember an episode at the time of the inauguration of Bharat Bhavan in Bhopal. Kamla Devi ji was also there, and there was an at-home, and the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi was meeting people. And in the group there, Krishnarao Shankar Pandit, and Shambhu Mitra, and Narayan Menon, and Kamla Devi Chattopadhyay. So when the Prime Minister will approach the group, they will all stand up. And mind you, Kamla Devi has been extremely critical of emergency. So, but when she stood up, Indira Gandhi literally rushed and made her sit down. Kamla Devi ji, not you. So there were these graces also between women in Delhi. You know, I kept on imagining that supposing these were two men, this kind of a grace and consideration would not have been there. Now, apart from these, there have been many young women or younger women who have done, Laila Tayyabji, Jetli, Jaya Jetli. They have done remarkable work in the Dilli Bazaar, what is it called? Dilli Haat is entirely at her initiative. A mention was made of literature. In fact, some of the most outstanding women in India have lived in Delhi. Kurtulan Haida, Krishna Sopti. They are people who not only wrote great literature, they were very innovative. They created characters of women which were so powerful. Krishna Sopti is one of them, and Kurtulan Haida, Amrita Pritam has been mentioned. In fact, today, Delhi is the capital of the most important Hindi women writers. It's amazing the number of women writers who are here. They are very young and they're challenging. They're challenging the notions of sexuality, the notions of the body, the notions of justice and all this in their writing. And there are writers like Manu Bhandari, Indira Goswami. Delhi, once upon a time, used to be called a city of refugees because the refugee population here outnumbered the real old population of Delhi. But Delhi has been a refuge of many people who flowered here. Most of people who belong to Delhi, now there are of course people who are born here and brought up here among women as well. But there was a time when almost everybody, especially women, came by marriage or for education from outside. But they have contributed greatly to Delhi. In visual arts, names have been mentioned: Anjali, Ila Menon, Arpita Singh, Madhvi Parekh, Ritu Sen, Latika Khat, etc. The art world, the visual art world is really dominated by women. Apart from Kiran Nada Museum, which is created by a woman, which is one of the largest museums we ever had of modern art, there are art critics, curators, Geeta Kapoor, Rubina Karode, Geeti Sen, who was working in the IIC for quite a while, and younger critic, Gayatri Sinha. They all belong to Delhi. Delhi matters because of its women. In the field of arts, in theatre, you have Amal Allana, you have Kusum Haider, if you remember, and there have been great actresses and there have been great directors, Anuradha Kapoor, Kirti Jain, etc., all women. And their theatre is quite distinctly different from the male theatre. It is more Protestant, it is more aggressive in a artistic way, but aggressive nonetheless. In music, you start, let's not go into history, but Shanno Khurana, Savita Devi, Sharan Rani. Sharan Rani was the first woman to learn sarod. And from whom? From Ustad Alauddin Khan, who was known to be a very abusive guru. He'd throw objects at his disciples if they don't practice properly, etc. Then, in dance, in classical dance particularly, dance has been Yamini Krishnamurti, Sonal Man Singh, and the rest of them, a whole lot of them. And some of the most innovative young classical dancers today live in Delhi. So Delhi has everything to be proud of in the world of academics. We have some of the most important historians, social scientists, people who have worked in environment, studied science, in technology. They are women. Romila Thapa is the name which easily comes to your mind, but everybody's mind. Then Nirja Chandhok, etc. And so I would say that whether in positive creativity or in protest or in innovation or in sustenance and conservation or in responsiveness to environment, Delhi women have excelled themselves. Delhi should feel proud and really pay tribute. And this festival is really meant to acknowledge not only the contribution of women in Delhi, and incidentally, even this festival is being done by a lady, by a woman. It happens to be you. So, and the husband sits by and supports. That's fine. That's a nice husband. But most women perhaps did not have this good luck. Most husbands have been critical of their successful wives. One knows that as part of the family structure in this country. There have been many people have fallen apart because the wife or the lady became more successful, more visible, and this sort of militates against the notion of male dominance. So friends, this is the occasion when we thought we'll bring to your notice the contribution made by women to Delhi and the continuing sustenance that women provide to institutions, to ideas, to innovation, to imagination, to creativity, etc. in this city. This city would be a much poorer, much depleted, culturally more insensitive, and even humanly less livable, but for the contribution and the presence of women in Delhi. Thank you very much. Now we finish? If there's any questions, let them be brief. Yeah.
I also want to.
I forgot to mention an important name, which, with your permission, I'll add. Recently we saw an election for the post of mayor in Delhi. All of you witnessed the kind of session it was, and a woman was chosen as mayor after men had taken the lead in beating up each other and women. But that is not what I'm really referring to. I think many people don't remember that the first woman mayor of independent India in New Delhi was a woman called Aruna Asaf Ali. And that is something to remember. And by the way, she won in Delhi not being part of the ruling Congress party. She was a member of the CPI, originally in the Congress. But she could make a contribution. And there was another lady, I'm going into history, who actually ran an empire from behind the parda. And her name was Noor Jahan. You see, her husband Jahangir was an alcoholic, addicted to opium, in poor health. And her own life is fascinating. She born in Kandahar, how she came to Delhi, married Sher Afghan, then met Jahangir, who married her. He was his 20th wife. And she actually ran the Mughal empire, which almost at that time encompassed most of India. It was a woman called Noor Jahan. Thank you.
As I was listening to Ashok ji and Pavan Varma, the two things that came to my mind, I have encountered Delhi and the women of Delhi as a journalist while reporting. There are two things that, came through as I was hearing the names. Delhi is a city of immigrants. Even if when you talk about Indira Gandhi, she didn't, she didn't belong to the city. She came here from Allahabad. When you talk about Sushma Swaraj, whom I knew very well, she's actually from Haryana. Excellent speaker. And you take anybody and everybody. They're all who came from somewhere outside, just like me, okay, and made Delhi their own, contributed not just into making the city, but contributed to making the idea of India. That is what is very, very interesting here. That is what we must acknowledge, and that Delhi may still be the city of Ghalib. There is no woman equivalent to Ghalib. If you think about, who imagined Delhi, if you have to imagine Delhi, there is no, you can't find a woman poet or a writer. We can say Arundhati has written a book which is about old Delhi. But the point is, Delhi by now has become like a Rubik's Cube. Okay, there are parts of Delhi which don't amalgamate with each other. Okay, but all the names that come up, whether it's Madhvi Parekh, like he said, Madhvi is one of my very favorite artists. But she has come to Delhi. She has made a name for herself as an artist, but exploring her art, which comes from Gujarat, from the folk art of Gujarat. So Delhi is this curious place. It is all the women that were named, they have contributed little by little, brick by brick, in making the idea of India, making what a classical dance form is, what art is, how you can bring artisans into a modern marketplace, like in Delhi Heart, and connect them to the urban population. All these ideas were formulated by people who came from outside and made Delhi their own. And and these small little contributions that have been made, it's not just in making the idea, a city what it is also in making what actually weaving a cloth for the idea of India. That is what I feel. And you talked about about the Shahin Bagh women. When I went to speak to them, the elderly lady who was leading the movement, she's saying, इधर बहुत सारे ऐसे हैं जिनको पता नहीं है घर पे, जिनका जन्म घर पे हुआ था. There is no record of their birth. There is no record of a land in their name. There is no record of a house in their name. Okay? So if a woman is asked to prove her citizen identity, it is far more difficult. It is far more difficult. That is the reason why that movement was led by women. We must not forget that. Okay? For a woman to prove her identity in a state and in her citizenship, unless it's a common document, it becomes very difficult. It is very difficult for the state and for a family, for anybody to disown a woman. That is why that movement was led by women. That is why the Citizenship Amendment Act challenged and was made the women of this city, or women in various parts of India, fearful. That is something we should not sort of forget while we talk about women who have made it big and glorify their contribution. Thank you.
No, I think you made a valid point that the idea of India cannot possibly be thought of without the contribution of the women to that idea, and to sustain that idea, not merely to have the idea, but to sustain it and to manifest that idea in various ways, even if those steps are small, had been done by women. So, ladies and gentlemen,
I just wanted to add before we open it up. You see, Delhi is a city of immigrants, as Santana said. But most people don't realize when the transition occurs between their being immigrants and actually residents of this city, belonging to this city. My family doesn't belong to Delhi. We come from Banaras. But now, for my children, Delhi is Delhi. Delhi is home. And so it has happened. There was a time when there were people working specially in government who had come from the south, and in the normal cliched, there was a division between Punjabis and Madrasis. That was the nomenclature. I think from a salad bowl, Delhi has become a melting pot. And in that melting pot, women have played an extremely important role, but not as important as they could, as they can, and as they will. And that is the future. You know, there is a saying that this is about a man. But having come as immigrants, I think the response that the great poet Zauq gave, he had got a job, he lived in the last years of the Mughal Empire under Bahadur Shah Zafar. By the way, whose wife? Zeenat Mahal. Zeenat Mahal, there is a palace in her name in Old Delhi. She was the youngest of the women he married, and in fact he wrote a ghazal, which is now very well known. बात करनी मुझे मुश्किल कभी ऐसी तो न थी तेरी दुनिया तेरी महफिल कभी ऐसी तो न थी It is said in her honor. She was the youngest of his wife. She was the only one who accompanied him when he went on exile to Rangoon. And there is a place in Delhi which was her palace called Zenat Mahal. But anyway, Zauq was given a much better position in the court of the Nizam with a much higher salary in the last days of the Mughal Empire, when they used to say, Az Dilli tak palam, Badshaahat e Shah Alam. The Mughal Empire had literally shrunk to between Delhi and Palam. And finally, he didn't take the job by saying, Kaun jaye parab Zauq, Dilli ki galiyan chhodkar. So somewhere, whether it's a man or a woman or an immigrant, this city, like a boa constrictor, absorbs you.
I just want to add what Pavanji said, immigrants. Now, being a woman, Delhi has given us identity as a Delhiites or Dilli ki Mahila. Delhi, what I feel at the end, Delhi has a culture which amalgamates taste of different states, values of different states, and culture of different states, where we live and we enjoy that culture. So that kind of Delhi we have. Thank you.
With that very positive note, we have to end the session. Now please move into the... you're having it here. Okay, fine. So there will be music and dance recital together. Two sisters. You'll have them. So we just removed the... Yeah, so please stay on. See what young women in Delhi are doing.